text me, and I know we're jumping the gun. You might have other stuff to talk about before we get here, but
I do.
You text me and ask me if I'm watching Them, a show I had not heard of until you text me. Hadn't thought about it. Had not involved any of my life in it. All right. And then, of course, if you text me and I know we're about to get together, I have to watch whatever it is. That's how I ended up watching that show on HBO with the naked people, right? And then
you're welcome. You're welcome.
So
I apologize for this suggestion. No, I apologize for this. I apologize.
Man.
Listen, okay.
Them, and I can't start at season 2 because I'm assuming you're talking about season 2. But I hadn't seen season 1.
No, I was talking about season 1, and I assumed that you would start at the beginning because season 2, I think can be watched without watching season 1. But I haven't gotten to season 2 yet. So
okay,
and
I figured you were. I figured you had to be talking about season 1 because of your reaction. Like you just text and just go wow, right? And I have approximately 12 minutes left on season 1, okay? And I tried to get as far as I could before I got on this call, and I made it to where I got 12 minutes left, and I don't know if I'm going to be okay. I don't know what I just watched.
All right, listen, I'm not okay, and I'm the type of person, Tyler Merritt, as I said, if you're not okay, I'm not okay, but I also feel like if I'm not okay, everybody around me needs to not be okay too. If I gotta see this, everybody that I know got it, because it's almost like you want to build in your own support group. And I have 1 million plus people as a support group for the stuff that's going on. We got each other. So that's how I feel as a community. If I'm going through, and let me just tell you, this thing traumatized me. And I knew it would, because when it first came out, I saw the commercial, the promos for it, the trailers, and I was like, oh, hell no, I can't watch this. It's like me watching the Holocaust. It does something to my insides. This has made me so angry. And some would say more angry. No, I'm usually not angry. If you want to be honest, I speak harshly, but I am not angry at all. This thing, because of the times that we're in, and how people monkey sounds in 2024 on an Ole Miss campus. Not the 1950s, not Ruby Bridges going to school, having tomatoes thrown at a little girl at 6. Like, this is today. So I feel like we're in these times, and the trauma that's carried forward, though, because my parents moved into a neighborhood that was on the turn. They weren't the first family, though. I don't even know who the first family was. God bless them. That was a all white neighborhood in East Orange. And then it wasn't. And we're going to talk about it later. But that episode 5, I think it is, the Covenant 1, because I had to write it down. Where the bankers, the realtors, the city planners are in a boardroom with the maps talking about how, and all of the people that want to talk about Baton Rouge, but know nothing about covenants and redlining and all of this stuff, and just think that something's just inherently wrong with Black people, and Black people who will parrot these same things. It's too much, which is why I'm Team Kendrick all the way.
You talking? We are not even 8 minutes into this show, and it's too much going on. First of all, listeners, if you were just tuning in or you missed out what we were talking about, there is a show on Prime called Them, THEM, and we are talking about season 1, even though when you go on, they're going to want you to watch season 2 because that's the one that just came out. But it's if I understand it right, every season is its own story. So I have a feeling season 2 will be its own thing. But we're talking about season 1. The show is called Them, and neither Karen or I are okay. She texted me this weekend and just simply said, "Are you watching Them?" I said no. I think I was literally like at my nephew's play or something. Like, not a care in the world, Karen. Now I'm in Them. I'm like, Them. Oh, this looks cool. I'll watch it when I get home. I go and start watching this show, and I can't sleep now. I can't go into closets ever. I'm never going to buy a house in the basement. Dude.
Woo! Yeah, the supernatural stuff didn't bother me. It was the real stuff. It was what happened to that woman in her own home. It was the neighbors and all of the burning the damn thing in their lawn and putting those effigies up and then having the nerve to say, when are you going to take that down? Bitch, you put it up. 64 years ago, on this day, 64 years ago, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the president of the United States, signed into law the Civil Rights Act of 1960, preventing people from harassing and obstructing folk from voting. And it mainly dealt with Mexican Americans and Black Americans. And it effectively, these groups in particular were being disenfranchised. And this was the 5th Civil Rights Act. But the previous one, was like not paid attention to, much like Brown versus Board of Ed for 20 years. But Dwight D. Eisenhower was really, really vigilant and doing that. And it still wasn't good enough because this year, July 2nd, of 1964, they had to do it again. The Civil Rights Act of 1964. I say this because there was a Civil Rights Act of the 1950s. There have been Civil Rights Acts that have been trounced upon, and then we have to keep coming back. So for everyone that is fatigued with the voting and all of this and Genocide Joe and two sides, they're the same bird and blah, blah, blah. Why do we have to keep coming back? Because guess what? People don't want you to vote. They don't want you to exist. They don't want you to live. We're talking about them because this is not that long ago. This is my parents' generation where people, and it's California. Mm-hmm. We're not talking about damn Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. We're talking about California had strict covenant laws that in the contract prohibited Negroes from owning property. And in this one particular scene, which if you don't watch anything else, watch season 1, episode 5. It is called Covenant 1. And I honestly, Tyler's back. Hi. I had to fast forward through the brutality when she was being brutalized. I had to fast forward. I couldn't watch that. The baby, I couldn't watch that. I had to fast forward through many scenes because I just didn't want that in my spirit because I do like to sleep at night. That boardroom scene that opens season 5 Covenant, season 1, episode 5, The Covenant, where they're sitting there talking about the City of Angels. They put out commercials all over the country, people coming back, GI Bills, paying for, City of Angels is the fastest growing city in America. But they had a Negro problem because when they put out the clarion call, Black people were coming from Mississippi, Alabama. They were coming too, and they were like, wait a minute, how do we profit? So the banks got together with the city planners, with the real estate folk, and interest rates were already crazy.
With the police officers.
The police officers, Jesus. Yeah, they were getting kickbacks, and they weren't, heavily policing, just making sure the Negroes would get killed, just enough to just get the. And the goal was to move in one Negro family because they knew if they did that, then the rest of the white folk would sell off and then they could drive up the prices, not down. And this was what really hurt my feelings, Tyler, when the guy said, we're making more money. Like the Black folk, that the Negroes that are coming in, it's actually more profitable. The real estate agent was like, it's more profitable when they move in. The property values go up. And they're like, we don't care about that.
Right.
So, today we're talking about Louisiana. Black people come in and ruin. No, it's been just the opposite. They ruin the property value. They create the blight in all of the things by buying up the property and then destroying in the neighborhood and then buying it back and then bringing in white folk and then this zip code thing is real from insurance.
Yeah.
And again, I lived in an all-Black community. We pay more taxes than the white folk for fewer resources and fewer city benefits. It's always been that. And it was so infuriating beyond the brutality and the violence and the racism which this is, by the way. That one episode just made me like, this is why we're here today.
The supernatural piece, when you were saying like it didn't really get to you, what got to me about the supernatural piece, I kept thinking to myself, is this needed? Like when it first started, I was like, I'm so into the story that I don't know if I need the supernatural piece to this to make this scarier, right? But what I thought was super smart of the writing team, the producers, the creators, is the undertone was this kind of evil is not normal. That was kind of the point. You know what I mean? It's like this kind of evil is rooted deep. It's the Bible turned upside down, poured with some demonic pressure to then grow out into this kind of evil. Like the supernatural piece was the part that kept reminding me of how dark it really was, you know? Yes. And yes. I was feeling it in my spirit already going, and it was brilliant. It was brilliant that they used Compton, right? Really, because it happened in Compton as well, but really more so, that's a name we all know. We're familiar with Compton. And they used that, and we're able to kind of see the history of how it planted and how these white folks tried so strongly to hold on to what they believed was their birthright, Karen, was their birthright. And then heaped on with all of that darkness onto it, man. I'm telling you, I only had 12 minutes left. And I'm not going to tell you where I was just because I don't want to give anything away to anybody, but man, I was boiling on the inside, and I wanted it to be over. You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to end because you can't watch any more of it.
Right.
I will never.
This thing. Go ahead.
I will never, ever see a cat in a bag ever again the same in my life. You may have skipped past that part, but.
Yeah, I did. I did. 866. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I did. I was, on Prime, you can fast forward, but see the scene, the blocks. Yeah. I was like, I ain't gonna sit in that. I ain't sitting in that. The music was masterful. The choice of music. I know Lena Waithe is one of the producers. Little Marvin, I don't know who he is. And I'm sorry, Little Marvin. Much respect to you. You are a brilliant genius. This was came out of his mind, out of his soul. I would love to sit with him.
Let's be clear that the not knowing who you are, Little Marvin, was not an insult.
Not at all.
She texted me and was like, do you know Little Marvin? And then I found myself going, how do I not know who Little Marvin is? I went on IMDb to try to see what you put together in the show. I walk a fine line with it, Karen, though. Like there's a part, it's similar to, and forgive me for saying this, but it's how I feel in my soul. It's somewhat on some level the same way that I can't watch when a Black person gets shot anymore. Like when someone's like, did you see this video? And I can't watch it. Like there's a piece of that where I'm like, I don't know if I needed that show. You know what I mean?
No, and I felt like that's why it might, because I couldn't watch it when it first came out. And I don't even know, I got dragged back in because of season 2 and people saying how good Luke James was. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go. But I was like, I can't start at season 2. So my dumb ass was like, okay, season 1. I was like, I knew this though. I knew this was going to be a problem for me.
I'm so glad you and I are both talking about season 1 because I was trying to get through it. I thought you were going to talk season 2. But
listen,